not working as many hours as they would like. It's a trend that's been developing for 20 years. As employers embraced just-in-time labor management. It's why, for example, in retail, where you used to have 70% of employees were full-time wage earners. Today, it's only 30% of employees in retail are full-time workers. And as for wages, well, flat is the new raise. People will be happy just to keep working at the same level. And for people who are just entering the workforce now, or who have been laid off during this recession and are just being rehired now, these unfortunate people could suffer 20% less pay for maybe 20 years. So, again, to summarize and conclude, the good, bad, and ugly about the workforce and workplace of the future. The workplace is being redefined. There will be interesting, demanding, rewarding work for those with the skills in demand. The bad, when it comes to work, there are no guarantees, only uncertainty and challenge. And the ugly is that there will be no work or less work than desire at lower pay for many. Okay, we've talked about the economy, we've talked about retirement, we've talked about the workplace and workforce, good, bad, and ugly in each. Now, finally, we come to consumers. What about the consumer mentality? Have we hit the reset button? Have we been fundamentally changed by this catastrophe to permanently change behavior? It seems to be true. It seems to be true. Saving is up. National savings rate is up like 5%. A couple of years ago, it was negative 2.7%. On the other hand, all it would take statistically to make that switch is to have maybe the top quintile of income earners save another 5 or 10% of their income. That would do the trick. That would switch it from minus 2.7 to plus 5. The bottom 4 quintiles could be struggling just to survive, not saving at all, and you could still see that change in the savings rate. But we're borrowing less. Yeah, that's because banks won't lend us the money. Maybe we would borrow and spend just as much if credit were still as available as it once was. And yet, there are signs, indications that tell us, no, things have changed this time. It will be different this time. And what are this list of factors? First of all, it's debt. Consumers have dug themselves a hole of debt which will not be, there's no easy way to climb out of it. As of July, personal debt has stood at about $13.8 trillion. That's $124,000 per household. It will take years to work down that debt, and that is going to prolong people's thriftiness. Paying it down will be harder because of the layoffs, pay cuts, freezes, and furloughs. The population segment that drives spending the most, baby boomers, faces special pressure. As I said, they're running out of time. So these factors argue strongly that the change is real and permanent this time. Unemployment is going over 10% before the end of the year. We all know it. And many who still have jobs are getting paid less, as I explained. And investments have a long way to go before they come back anywhere near to the level they were. This also suggests continued frugalness. Personal spending has fallen in 4 of the last 6 quarters. That's the only time that's happened since quarterly trends were first compiled in 1947. And it's across the board. It's across the demographic groups. Spending is down by 34% among boomers, 35% among Generation X, and 33% among Generation Y. that is an amazingly widespread decline in spending. A study by research firm AlixPartners concludes that once a new normal sets in after this recession, Americans will spend at about 86% of their previous levels. Only 86, down 14%. That's what they're expecting. That's what they predict. That suggests a permanent change. Another item, the ratio of wealth to debt has cratered. And until asset values regain previous levels, which might take a while, it's unlikely that we can see spending return to previous levels. We're borrowing a lot less, as I said, even if it's only because the banks won't loan us the money, we're borrowing a lot less. And here's the point. Is there really a sea change in our attitudes about consumption, about what does the good life entail? I think there may be. I think maybe we're realizing the good life does not necessarily have to include a high-def, flat-screen TV on every wall in every room. And yet, okay, you knew this was coming because there's no one-handed economist in the United States. So here we go. On the other hand, I'm going to throw a big wrench in here, a caveat. It's an important one. It's called the wealth effect. Because research has shown that the wealth effect is real and in fact has applied throughout time across populations throughout history. They've even put a number on it. They've done so much research, they've put a number on it. It's 7%. That for in other words, for every dollar in wealth that you gain, your spending increases by 7 cents. And for every dollar in wealth that you lose, your spending decreases by 7%. And this rule has, again, shown to be so pervasive that it may even be considered a constant, a given, a permanent condition. What this suggests is that once our feeling, our perception of wealth returns, we will be all too eager to shop, buy, borrow, and spend again, and shop till we drop again. Now, how are we going to know when the corner has been turned, or if this is true change? If I may recommend a measure of consumer intentions called the Consumer Demand Index. Consumer Demand Index is a monthly survey of American households' buying intentions for the next 3 months. Full disclosure, I'm a principal in this company, but we think our measure is better than the measures you hear about in the news every month. The Consumer Confidence Measure by the Conference Board, and the consumer, and the one that's done by the University of Michigan called Consumer Sentiment. We think ours is better because we don't ask about what people are feeling or even what they're thinking. We ask consumers, we ask 1,000 households a month, every month. We ask them, are you or are you not in the next 3 months going to buy a car, going to buy a TV, going to buy a PC, going to buy clothes, going to buy more food than you did in the same period last year, or less, or the same amount. And we've been tracking these trends since 2001 for 8 years, and we have found the index to be a very reliable indicator for consumer behavior, and one that predicts where the Conference Board is going and where the manufacturer's index is going as well.